Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to some of you. We just have had quite an interesting conversation in our, I guess we call it the Zoom green room, about how many of us are morning people. So I say good morning with a little bit of a twinkle in my eye. Hello, I'm Sandy Yannone, your host of Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. It's Sunday here in Olympia, Washington. And of course, on our second Sunday of the month, that means you're here to join us for our new books showcase. I want to, before I turn to the program for today, with Regina, Garcia, Avotcja, and Indran, Amirthanayagam, I want to welcome everyone here live in Zoom, as well as those of you joining us live on Facebook for another wonderful program. And during the month of February, we're so grateful for all of you joining us here live when you can be with us. And of course, a reminder that you can always revisit and or view the program if you were not able to be with us here live through the wonderful curation of Don Krieger, through our YouTube channel, and the video, of course, appears on our Cultivating Voices Live Facebook page. Well, we have today for our new books showcase just three astounding poets. I think many of us in the room have had the pleasure of hearing all of them through various venues, and in particular here we've seen Regina and Indran and Avotcja, and Avotcja is often a stalwart reader on Lime Square. If you've not participated yet in Lime Square Poets, that is Thursday, on Thursdays out of Cork and Limerick, Ireland. Well, it's a wonderful trio today, and will wait no longer to introduce our first poet, who we were able to, with great pleasure, hear last week on our Poets Focus on Voice, where we were highlighting the poem turned into song, James Weldon Johnson's Lift Every Voice and Sing. I want to thank our featured poets who joined us, and also all of you who joined us on the open mic. It was an incredibly powerful and uplifting program. And again, I have no doubt today that we will be following with an equally inspired reading today. Well, our first reader for today is Regina Garcia. And let me share a little bit more with you. With a reminder, folks, please, this is our new book showcase. So we're focusing on these three devoted poets and their latest collections. And I hope, if you have the resources, please do support the poets and their presses. We'll be putting information in the chat for each of you with links to their books, and they'll also appear tomorrow on our page. Thanks to Kim Ports Parsons for putting all this together to support and encourage and make sure you have an opportunity, an easy opportunity to connect with the work that you're hearing today on the program. And also, a final reminder, please do show your love for the poets and your appreciation. We have in the chat, we have a live chat, appropriate comments only, please, of course. But I always notice when I'm attending other readings how really engaged our chat tends to be. And I really love that aspect of the program. So I want to welcome you all to participate in the chat and send the love to our three poets today. Well, as I mentioned, first today, we'll be hearing from Regina Garcia. Regina Garcia is an award-winning language artist, poet, and English professor. She received her BA from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in speech and a master's of education from East Carolina University, along with a graduate certificate in multicultural and transnational literature. Her work appears in the South Florida Poetry Journal, Up the Staircase Quarterly, the Autoethnographer, Amistad, Main Street, Rag, New Note Poetry, and many, many others. Her work has been featured in an Emmy-winning episode of Muse, as well as in the 2022 Sacred Nine Project of Tulane University. Her book, The Firetalker's Daughter, is up for release through Finishing Line Press. We're so pleased to be able to have Regina Garcia start us off today on our new books showcase. Welcome. And as I said, thank you. And what a pleasure to be able to hear you 2 weeks in a row.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm like, who is she talking about? That's great. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And actually, you know, it has been 2 weeks in a row, but I think 2 weeks before that last time, I had like a little mini feature here. And I realized that as I was, I remembered that, of course, as I was pulling poems, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I read then? So you may hear a repeat, and I'm absolutely certain you're going to hear one repeat. And that repeat is going to be the flagship poem of my new collection, The Firetalker's Daughter. It will be shipping on March the 31st. Pre-sale is over, but you certainly can still get the book. We do have a link for that, and so I'm excited about that. And I just thank you all for your support, but more importantly, you know, not just the book support, but the love. I am a mature. I'm mature in age, but I am new to actually going out and kind of promoting my poetry and being published and all of that. And so I'm really excited to be here. And I'd like to thank Kim for the invitation. And I'd like to thank Sandy for her exuberant opening there for me. But I want to go on and get started with this. In the chat, I'm going to place a link, and that link is actually a link, and you may, you know, it sometimes later want to go to that and find out a little bit more about fire talkers. Now, my book is not all about fire talkers, but it is focused on some of the lessons that I've learned throughout my life. My mother was a fire talker, and she was a great shaper of how I view the world. She played a big role in that. She was a librarian for over 30 years. Her bachelor's was in French. She was just I'm not saying what she is. She is an amazing woman. She is still here with us. She does have some Alzheimer's and dementia. This book is dedicated to her and all that she means to me and has meant to so many other people in her life. I want to begin with The Firetalker's Daughter. My mother talked the fire out of burns, eased the pain, as did her father, as did his mother, as does my son, as will his daughter. It had to pass me by as I was not a man-child. Yet my mother looked at me like I was sun in the sky, like I was promised. She said that while I would not have that gift, I would have a great many. And even though I couldn't talk it, I most certainly carried it, power. I entered the world very tiny and gray with a gray ring around my brown eyes, said I was scrawny with bright eyes that had seen before. Mama said a great many long gone spirits dwelled where I was born, and when it was time to leave that place, she was well ready to go. They worried her incessantly. She told me many other things, like how great Auntie's hat and act were healers, and women would come to them for many an unknown ailment, and how God put these abilities in us because of what God knew we would need to survive, for our families to survive, for our people to survive. My mother marched in the movement. My mother educated the masses. My mother spoke the fire. But sometimes my mother held her tongue. My mother can no longer tell me any more about these truths I have discovered are very real. That is to say that she lives, but she cannot say. Sometimes her tongue gets confused. Sometimes her tongue is at rest. I cannot talk the fire. Yet I am fire. I know this because she told me so. And that's the truth. One thing that my mother always instilled in me was the importance of recognizing that you are not what they call you. You are more than what they call you. And this came back to me as I was talking with a friend. She was going through a job loss. It was unfair. I know, and many people know, that there was racism at the root of it. And she just was feeling like, she wasn't quite enough. And so I actually wrote this poem for her. It is entitled, "They Have Taken Nothing." They have taken nothing. The inconvenient who interfere, mind bound to oppress, not your skin, your smile, your hair, your bones, your heart, your beauty, nothing, despite the ripping, tearing, gnashing, for you will be blessed, anointed, reassembled in this land and new lands. They have taken nothing, not your mind, not your essence, not your gift, not that which is seated in you, not that fire spirit that finds rest in your belly, not that blackbird that sings the song in your soul. They have taken nothing. The fields in which your thoughts walk, the suns that even your closed eyes see, the waters under which you swim, over which you glide, unfettered by monsters, minstrels, mistrials. The ancestors guide you. The Creator made you. God-born saves you. Spirit covers and reveals you and reveals to you. They have taken nothing. They have tricks with no power, shifting lights with no illumination, hidden hands, weak grasp, no understanding of your station. They have taken nothing. Only closed doors, piteous attempts at control. For your amulets are scattered strategically around the realm, around the world. Possessive earthen carnality is futile. They have taken nothing, for you are here, holding the keys to every possession and unrealized obsession that you have, that you are meant to have. Your riches stored, your then, now, and to be lives in readiness. They have taken nothing. You still have everything. This next poem is entitled The Air Bears Witness. I've been thinking a lot about what we so often do, and I say we, I mean all of us, and particularly some of us that's behind this too. Some of those who were mind bound to oppress, and the air bears witness. Air, shaped breath of divinity, fuel of humanity, a silent, sentient ambassador. Indeed, utterance, mobility, laughter, love, all require air. Ever present, sustainer of life, respect due, respect due. And yet on these todays, yea, even from the beginnings of days, air bears ugly witness to the first whispers of dishonored death. Death signaled by raised eyebrows, tears, anger, fears, agitated spirits that tell darkened, depraved minds that there is indeed no other way. Air stares soundlessly as thoughts break through cracked lips, words traveling on its currents into ears of waiting co-conspirators, or simply float, then sink back into skin to settle and harden in the minds that conceived it, and the hearts that believe that breath disrupted is the only way to take control of these uncertain times. Air is obliged to be pulled in and out of lungs, irrespective of the evil, of the good. Air is there shifting uneasily when the brute punches straight through her face and breaks her teeth, blood pouring from the spaces underneath, indiscreet. Air is there wildly uncomfortable when insanity, profanity, corruption, brutality meet in the alleyways and leave mothers planning and digging graves. Air is there when the clamoring mob says, let's catch us one unaware. And air conspires with fire and watches as it brings the rope and ties it tightly on wearied feet that have tried to run, dragging life down dark roads and pop-up sundown towns. Air sees tracks of blood relentlessly circle this place from age to age, circle this place. Air sees it all, trapped in even the most unholy, the most undignified rooms, makeshift tombs. While bright air's charge is to sustain the flesh in this domain, man's refrains of violence and misery savagely redirect its mission. And air remains to give testimony, eternal testimony. For air is divinely compelled, righteously compelled, to stoically bear witness to it all. So I really started to, I've always been a community poet. I think maybe I've said that before. I've always been a community poet. And so I really started in earnest. I guess something in my spirit kind of amplified when we started to hear about a lot of the deaths of African Americans in this country, at the hands of police, at the hands of, even more than the police. We know that it has not been relegated necessarily to one race or the other, but it seems that proportionately speaking, it happens more frequently to people of color. And so my Requiem writing began in earnest during this time where I had time to really see what was going on. This is a Requiem for Breonna Taylor entitled Die No More. I take her up in my arms, a daughter I never knew. Daughter, die no more. Spirit ushers her toward the sky, away from a land too broken to care or understand that she was the one it could have loved, protected, not rejected solid life, nor cooked down what she was meant to be, likening her legacy to wilted greens down a drain, never to be redeemed. Daughter, die no more. Leaving me to keep her name on my pen, in my fingertips, on my lips, a daughter I never knew, because they sent word by vile, loathsome lips that the bullet that tore through her live body unjustified ripped the light from her eyes and would not be held accountable. Her only justification would come in her by and by. Daughter, die no more. My children march on streets of hate in a land that reviles and berates skin and embraces sin, calls evil forth, names it God and invites it in. No God that I know, blessed daughter, as you will find when you join the fold of real God divine. Daughter, die no more. Die no more. I don't want to read every poem in the Firetalker's Daughter. So these next poems are actually pieces from a manuscript that I'm working on, and y'all are special. So I said, I'm going to share this with you. I haven't been able to stop writing the requiems, but these are new. This is entitled Sometimes the Dance is Not Enough. And it was written, I know many of you know Twitch, Stephen Voss, the man who was a dancer and just a light in this world. And so this is in memory of him, in memory of Stephen Voss, and all whose pain grew louder than the music, a poem of solace. Sometimes the dance is not enough, and sometimes the music does not drown out the pain, and sometimes it's not about heaven or hell, and sometimes it's not about anything they did wrong, and sometimes it's not anything that you did wrong, and sometimes it's not something you should have seen, you could have seen, and sometimes none of that matters, because the pain and deep despair can be deceitfully stronger than the music, than the dance. Because heaven or hell is not looming in view, only the scandalous images of freedom beckon. Because what he, she, they, anyone did or did not do is the veil we use to cover the body, to lay the issue to rest. Because sometimes the mask secured in place smiles wide and blinks assuringly. And what can we do about that other than stretch our fingers towards the sky? Allow our love to attach itself to the solid memory. Build our shrines with soul cells of gratitude for all that was given, all that he, she, this human life lifted and loved. And we must be vigilant and aware of our sorrow. And we must not wrap ourselves in the mantle of death so that the energy of pain burned off fiercely in the atmosphere does not circle and cage us. And what can we do but love everyone just as hard as we can, always, because sometimes, in fact, most often, we don't really know, even if we should have known, just what we could have done to really slay the hurt. And we must continue to search the stars and our minds for the soothing memories and messages from the beautiful, resolute, wits-end human spirit who sought to untether its soul from fickle flesh. Sandy, I hate to ask you, I'm not keeping up with time. How much time do I have? Or am I at the end?
How about you give us one more?
One more, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so this poem that I'm going to give you, this last poem I'm going to share with you is actually a poem that is about you. If I can get to it. It is about you. It is for you. I'm so honored and blessed. I find inspiration in communing with others um, who who are kindred spirits. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about the topic of space. In fact, I have a friend here, Karen Stewart, who is also a poet, and we were talking about it just this morning. And so this poem is entitled Free Space. Recently, I saw, as I was driving through my neighborhood, positioned just off a major drive within my city, a deer and her baby at a curb between two houses. I slowed, giving her space to navigate safely across the street. My neighborhood, largely unadorned with any significant number of trees and natural water sources, seemed quite an unnatural place to see them. I wondered how this beautiful creature, this gentle spirit who shepherded her beloved progeny, had ended up here in this loveless, spaceless terrain. Surely, I thought, the natural places for fauna existed somewhere, and I began to take inventory of where in the world or in my town they could go and be free. And then it struck me that finding space is really more than finding place. It is also finding grace. I fell asleep on that thought. But days later, I awoke to another revelation, a revelation that reminded me that many people walk round and round, across, up and down, or are even shackled in spacelessness. They are standing at borders, trafficked over water and through lands and spaceless places, large and small, and find themselves in situations cramped and hostile, in conditions decidedly unnatural, with no space to grow and no love offered. For space is more than that which can be cordoned or touched or bordered or bought. It is the untouchable, the sometimes hidden, the room of rest and requirement, the full pockets of opportunity in which we so often want to find ourselves. But space is a commodity that can be offered, bought, expanded, shrunken, revoked, inflicted, gifted, and retracted, even scammed away. In space, we live, we have our being. In spacelessness, we live sad, hungry, unfulfilled. Many journey to another time, another place, searching for space. Space is what I crave. Humble or grand, elementally, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, space is what I crave. In COVID time, quarantine, work from home, meet from home, eat at home, create at home, I took the time and space to say, I am leaving spaces in which I am considered to be of no value. So leaving Zoom meetings, putting up my peace out picture, saying no, taking time to create. Indeed, I created a space in which I began to flourish and find myself. 3 years have passed though. Quarantine has passed, and life in many ways seems to not have learned and has largely returned to its abnormal, dressed as normal, fickle self, running, dodging, waving space in front of me and trying to snatch it back. But where do I go? On yesterday, for not the first time since the world reopened, I felt deeply the heaviness of encroaching, building spacelessness when I experienced a sharp and stabbing chase from desired space in a room that should have been filled with love. I saw me, a deer, standing between two houses, wondering where in the world I could go and be, and how can I flee or rebuild a space that will keep me whole and free. Today, space heard me, sought me, and came with pocketbook handles in the crooks of their arms, hanging in the crooks of your arms, beaming from your faces. Space shamans, you are. You have created this space and invited me in. Every snap and clap, a sanctified ring dance, every word, a holy war song, every face, grace, every body, space. I am but one holy space nestled in this holy place. Thank you for the water. Thank you for the haven. And thank you for the love.
That is Regina Garcia. Thank you for the love of the poetry today. Opening up our new books showcase, Regina is the Firetalker's daughter. Collection is coming out very soon. Please do order. And those meditations on air and ending on space and bringing us the requiems that we really long to never have to write, that we really long to never have to write. And yet you use the power of your voice to talk the truth, to speak the truth. Thank you so much. Firetalker's daughter, Regina Garcia. Until next time. Until next time. Well, folks, I was thinking about, as Regina was reading, the certain musicality and rhythms of her work, and thinking about how it's a beautiful segue to our next poet, Avotcja, who is not only an accomplished poet, but also musician, true musician, and infuses her work with the love of both of those mediums. And I if you've not heard Avotcja read before, get ready for the ride of your ears. A little more formally to share with you about Avotcja. Avotcja has been published in English and Spanish in the United States, Mexico, and across Europe, and in more anthologies than she can remember. She's an award-winning poet, multi-instrumentalist, recording artist, and creative activist. And in addition, is a very popular DJ in the Bay Area, radio personality, and leader of the group Avotcja and Madupwe. Avotcja facilitates the longest running multilingual poetry series in Oakland, California, and teaches creative writing and drama. She's a proud member of Disability Activists of Minorities org, Penn Oakland, and an alumni of the California Poets in the Schools. Her latest book is With Every Step I Take Two, from Taurean Horn. On May 10th, 2014, at the 12th Annual Berkeley Poetry Festival, Avotcja was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award for her amazingly valuable creative and community work that she has accomplished. And the Berkeley City Council proclaimed that day in honor of her. 9 years ago, and she is still going strong and here with us today on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Would you please welcome Avotcja?
Wow, let's say wow. And Regina, what can I say? You almost have me holy dancing in here. You are no joke, my friend. I'm so sorry it took me so long to meet you. Anyway, the ancestors have been kind to me, and I have got a few poems for you, mostly from my book, and then a couple that are from a book that's coming out. And if you don't have my book, I'll put that in my chat, and also put our poetry series in the chat in a few minutes. But so, as she said, I write in English, Spanish, and Spanglish, and hopefully that'll work okay for you. This first one is called True Confessions of a Sound Junkie, because ever since I was a little kid, I was a music nut. I mean, literally a sound freak. I heard music and everything, and which made me really weird. And to be weird in New York is not only to be a no-no, but weird and smart is really dangerous. So I got beat up a lot and what have you. And folks used to call me a sound junkie. I used to get angry with that, but now I use it as a title. I like it. So this is called True Confessions of a Sound Junkie. I am a bona fide sound junkie. Call me a child of music. I was created born to the tune that called two very beautiful but incompatible dances together to make love, to make me to the rhythmic humming of rusty bed springs. And on that night, the slippery moans and warm sweat sounds of their love dance became the song that is me. The sensuous sounds of their love dance sang me into existence. That night did not walk in softly, and neither did I. I came with all the fire and wild passion of a hurricane. Like a shy tornado, I came. I heard music and the rustling of newspapers in the streets and the symphony and the sound of dripping water. Every squeaky door and leaky faucet had its song to sing. I even heard music in the dice games on the corner. I ran wild and free like the doo-wops and mambos, kaizo, calypso, boleros, and gospel, bomba, sambas, blues, and jazz, sweet, uncontrollable melodies that were everywhere. Melodies that drowned the filth of city streets, but always left a place for me in the silence between their notes. And every time I thought I'd lose it, cause the racket was more than I could stand, Spirit said, listen, listen, listen for the rhythm, listen, it's there. Listen, all around you, there's music everywhere. Listen, find the rhythm, listen to the rhythm, and when you become that rhythm, you'll find that noise is only a lonely sound, waiting. Sound waiting for someone who does more than just hear with their ears. Spirit said, listen. Noise ain't nothing but a lonely sound waiting, impatiently waiting, looking for a friend. And I knew that I could be that friend, that wild and crazy friend who's not afraid to grab the stage and let the people know. Noise ain't nothing but a lonely sound waiting for a song to sing, waiting, impatiently waiting, searching for that somebody. Somebody listened long enough to make her want to sing. Someone like me, someone like you, someone that knew that noise ain't nothing but a sad and lonely sound. Just another naked note out there looking for some clothes. Slavery is a disgusting, immoral, disgraceful concept anywhere on the planet. And contrary to popular belief, it did not just happen in this country, it happened all over, and especially the Americas, which turned it into something that is just indescribable. In Peru, when slavery was ended, they said that the Black folks were running up, and the Indians were running up and down the streets over, se acabó la esclavitud, means slavery's over, se acabó la esclavitud. So this is called En el Callejón. The Callejón is an alley. And I dedicate this to the great Susana Vaca, who I've had the honor to meet, and Lalo Izquierdo, who is a good friend of mine, who's a founder of Peru Negro. If you've never seen them, do yourself a favor. Se acabó la esclavitud. And we dropped the heavy cloaks of degradation and came running, throwing off the invisibility of slavery. We came running from the dehumanization of mines and docks and fields. We came a homeless flood in search of the shore, but all of the doors were closed except for the door to the old slave quarters, the galpon. Se acabó la esclavitud. So we dropped the locks on the doors of our history, and wrapped in the healing mystery of Lando, we came. We created a world, made a home in those alleys we washed and wore, the vice royalties thrown away clothes, and cleansed ourselves with the love that they could never work out of us. Se acabó la esclavitud. And we danced away the pain of invisibility. We danced so hard we could feel the ancestors smile as we purified our souls and theirs through the ancient power of Lando. And every ear that hears feels that special fearless thing every time we sing, inexplicable sacred trance times that come every time we move out of time, when we're invoking that untouchable part of us, that older than time, unspeakable secret part of us. It's a beauty that's bigger than us, a part that can't be labeled, bottled, sold, or bought. It always comes through in the rhythm of our songs. Acabó la esclavitud. It's the hypnotic euphoria of rhythm, of freedom, freedom speaking to us through the strength of Lando. It's our medicinal tone poem, our own organic anthem. It's Samba Malato, an exquisite Afro-Peruvian hymn, a long overdue praise song, a gift to lift us. It's a help to help us celebrate the beauty that is us, our own very own public proclamation of el fin de la esclavitud. What can I say? This Samba Malato is like the version of the American Negro spirituals, and had all kinds of coded language in there for Black folks and Indians to know what to do to get their butts out of the situation. So anyway, they said I'm a music freak. And one of the musics, in fact, it's interesting that Regina comes from the Carolinas. Some friends are trying to bring me to North Carolina and do some stuff down there. So hopefully I get a chance to meet you in person. This poem is called Oaktown Blue. I live in West Oakland. West Oakland used to be a paradise, and it's such a Black paradise. It was like the Harlem of the West Coast, and folks would literally jump ship to come and party here. It looks like a bomb hit it now, because anytime it seems we get something good, the creatures come in. They call it gentrification now, and they tear it down. But I want to take you to West Oakland when it was the only place to be. And it's a very long poem, so you have to get the book to get the whole thing. I'm just going to give you a piece of it. To take you to West Oakland when West Oakland was the only place to be. They came on foot, by car ride and hope, on horseback, by train, on the plain. They came wearing faith, pockets full of dreams, running from cotton fields and chopping cane. They came running, knowing better was waiting, carrying their whole lives in paper bags, carrying guitars on their back, sacks full of tall tales, and blue songs of a home they knew they'd always miss, but swore they'd never go back to. They came by ship, discharged scars, wounds no time could heal, released from military hospitals on West Coast shores they'd never even seen. Battle fatigue, confused, feeling used, and they came in droves from the war, shell-shocked and tired, and looking for a home, and when they didn't find it, they built it. On any night in West Oakland, you might run into migrant workers straight out the cotton fields of Georgia, strutting their stuff and partying and bumping and grinding alongside of armies of ditch diggers, tradespeople, and unemployed PhDs who were never told they were unemployable. Saints and sinners from Texas and Mississippi, from Arkansas, Virginia, Maryland, the Carolinas, and even the West Indies, all dancing away their rage and sadness, hidden behind memories of clouds of cotton and buried beneath too many mountains of sugarcane and tobacco leaves, of frustrated fury gladly forgotten and left behind to rot in deserted plantation fields. And you could hear the relief in clubs as Big Mama Thornton took a crown and gave Oakland everything. The woman gave us everything she wasn't allowed to give in the South. John Lee Hooker brought the boogie out the Delta, and Bob Giddens, Ivy Jo Hunter, and Charles Brown gave us smooth. You could go right down the street and get yourself some of Beverly Stovall, Sonny Rose, Jimmy McCracken, J.J. Malone, or the sophisticated sweetness of Jimmy Witherspoon, or the raw passion in L.C. Good Rock and Robinson's blues violin, or get your inside ripped out and put back together again as Etta James and Sugar Pie DeSanto tore the roof off the house. I say the blues didn't just slip into the Bay Area. It was like a cloud burst. The blues came in waves, powerful waves as subtle as a tidal wave and as painlessly as a pregnant woman in hard labor. The blues came in oversized, raggedy overalls, sometimes sporting evening gowns and three-piece suits, became furious, luxurious, jubilant, overworked, and underpaid, running from the clan, hold on to everything they had, others just looking for something to hold on to. The blues came west looking for freedom land. LA, Sacramento, and San Francisco had that big city thing. Folks rocked in Russell City. Vallejo had his team. Richmond had a kind of smooth, Chi-town sounding thing. But if you wanted a gut-wrenching, soul-taking, down-home blues, you know, the kind of church annual model who owns you about, the kind of blues that made your hair stand on end and snatch you out of chairs that made you shout and jump, act a fool, and dance, that good old makes you want to howl, that kind of blues, you'll have to come to Oakland. If you want the rest of that poem, you got to get my book. Anyway, let's see. Where do we go from here? Since the Hurricane Maria tore up Puerto Rico and reduced the rainforest to splinters and what have you, different people have been sending stuff to different parts of the island. The group that I'm part of, we're sending stuff way up into the mountains, which is the coffee growing country. And I'm a coffee fanatic. And a few weeks ago, I opened a box that got to me at the post office, and all these brands of Puerto Rican coffee came dropping out. And the first words out of my mouth is, it's Raining Cafe, R-A-I-N, but I changed to R-E-I-G-N, Raining Cafe Royalty. So this poem is also in Spanglish. So it's called Raining Cafe, Confesiones de una Cafeólica sin Vergüenza, or Confessions of a Shameless Coffeeholic. And I gratefully accept that title. So way up in the mountains of Borinquen, I should say, Borinquen is the true name of the island before colonization. So way up in the mountains of Borinquen, it's raining cafe, indescribably precious gifts and little tiny coffee beans, proud and homegrown and more numerous than raindrops. Café real con un aroma sin igual, and just the scent of café that transports me to el pueblo de las Marias. This coffee is sacred, precious, delicious, a real mountain treasure. Es un licor natural y orgánico y 100% del pueblo borincano. And with every cup of café el mañanero and café lealtad, I am reborn. En las montañas de la Isla del Encanto, it's raining café. But even here, 3,595 miles away from it, the fruta sagrado del campo, I daily drink in the power of those mountains, and I am energized. Every single day when I taste the essence of Café Cibales, I can feel the naturaleza of Ciales come alive inside my insides. And Café Oro de Puerto Rico, ay, qué rico. Café increíble con su aroma sabroso, a sacred encanto that tastes of majesty. Con cada trago de nuestra café subo para el cielo. In the mountains of La Isla del Encanto, it's raining café, royal coffee beans, un tesoro nacional with hypnotic aromas that smell of the wildness of freedom, untamable freedom, libre like the dirt of the mountains that gave them birth. Oh yes, I say, I confess, I'm hooked. I get drunk with every cup of café de aquí ajutuado, majestuoso tesoro sagrado de las montañas, and in my house, tomo el sabor 100% de las montañas, and I shamelessly admit it. There's not 1 ounce of doubt in my mind. I am a proud 100% unapologetic coffeeholic, and in my house, it's raining café, 100% from the mountains of La Isla del Encanto. Folks have gotten, you know, people talk about the South like it's the only place that did things like lynching and all that crazy stuff. But hopefully folks have been picking up on that's not the only place. Right about maybe 35, 40 miles from where I'm sitting right now, there used to be a place called Russell City. And Russell City was a very different place than any other place in this country. It no longer exists. The story is in this poem, but it was a major blues capital of the country when it did exist. And so I'm going to read this thing. It's called Russell City, a place we can't let time erase. And folks that know about places like this all over the country, please let folks know. I mean, ancestors, they say, there's a wonderful Ethiopian dicho says, your most dangerous adversary is an ancestor ignored. And you don't want them ancestors to kick you behind. They will get to you one way or another. So I'm trying to make sure they know I'm not letting anybody forget them. So it's called Russell City, a place we can't let time erase. Inspired by Big Cat Toll-Free, Ernesto Nava, and Ronnie Stewart. Russell City was unique, a world unto itself, unforgettable, irreplaceable, a curse and a blessing, all wrapped up in one. It was home to a Danish settler who gave refuge to Black folks running from the racist strangulation of the deep American South. It was home to freedom-seeking Portuguese, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and Filipinos, all looking for a better day. a different way. Russell City was poor, unincorporated, had no support from the county or state. But for the folks that lived there, it was a county paradise. Excuse me, for the folks that lived there, it was a country paradise hidden in plain sight, where everybody looked after each other and took care of what needed to be taken care of because all they had was each other. Russell City was also a blues haven. I mean, you hadn't paid your dues till you played your blues on the stage at Russell City, in the Russell City Country Club, and they came from everywhere just to experience its magic. It was blues dripping like sweat off all the walls and climbing up into the soul of dancers' feet. That blues came alive in the dirt near their feet. It was like a cavalcade of stars at this little club in the country. Everyone from Big Mama Thorne to T-Bone Walker, Eddie James, Lowell Folsom, L.C. Goodrock and Robinson, Juke Boy Bonner, John Lee Hooker, Sugar Pie DeSanto, and even the great Ray Charles, who had cars lined up for blocks when he came to town. But then the big money snake started creeping around, and unexplained fires started appearing all over the place. The town of Russell City was immediately declared a disgraceful blight, a slum, a squalid mess in the press. In 1963, eminent domain was declared and all residents forced to relocate to make room, they said, for an industrial park. The last forced to move was Ernesto Nava, who just happened to be the son of Mexican revolutionary Pancho Villa. Home was coincidentally burned down 2 hours after his forced evacuation. Russell City may have been poor and unincorporated, but it was home. A home that helped create the post-war American blues. And as a friend of mine said, created a Blaxican space where we all felt safe. In a place filled with memories of community and Sunday mornings, waking up to the neighborhood smell of chorizo and cornbread and bittersweet spots of Northern California dream deferred. In a place we can't let time erase, a place called Russell City. Somebody's thing is open. Would you please put on your mute, whoever that is? Because it's driving me crazy. I think, okay, there we go. Thank you. Okay, here we go. In honor of Black History Month, a lot of things that we forget. There's a wonderful dance form, music called tango. Tango, which you probably call tango. There is no such word. Tango is a word that comes from the Congolese Delta. And at one point in Argentina, there was more Black folks than anybody except for the Native Indians. And now there's almost none. And that's a whole nother story. If you go further down south in the Americas, you'll get some very scary stories, and that's one of them. Tango was a very popular music and dance form after slavery among Black folks. It was against the law. It was considered obscene, pornographic, and some people even got killed for dancing it, but it never stopped folks from dancing. So I dedicated, when I started I'm working on a book called Diaspora Negra, Black Diaspora. And when I got to Argentina, this poem, I mean, what do you call it, an epiphany. So in my book, it's all in Spanish, all in English, but I'm gonna do what you call a mashup. Ombligado means navel to navel. Ombligado is the correct way to say it, Black slang, ombligado in Argentina, or navel to navel in Argentina. So here we go. Yo recuerdo la danza mística, la música sensual y el sabor a cuerpo sudoroso, el ambiente de nuestro orgullo arrogante, creatividad completa desenfrenada, fuimos papachosos bailadores negros celebrándonos en templos del solar yo. Recordaron los días estáticos y bailando contigo, libre, auténtico y esclavo de nadie, tú y yo, una pareja conectada eternamente y bailando obligado en un exorcismo a pesar de una sombra de la esclavitud, colmada de una libertad inconquistada, bailando adueñarse de fiebre apasionada frenéticamente, pero suave y sin vergüenza, remembering those far away days. Like a flood of memories and a waterfall of truth, memories tearing up the silence of historical lives, unforgettable days that haunt me, echoes of painful sadnesses. I remember those bloody days in our Africanizing nights in secret sanctuaries, undercover happiness, forbidden joy, dancing navel to navel, dancing in safe havens covered by tears. I remember the dusty, muddy dirt of our dance floors and the price we paid for the right to dance. I remember the magic of those nights full of stars, nights completely drunk on dance, sacred memories of an unforgettable legacy, you and I, two rhythmic volcanoes, Two dark rebels, two black spirits older than time, dancing navel to navel, a holy ritual against the divine law of the lawless. And I remember. I said, I remember you in those days, dancing like we were out of our minds in the alleys, proud disciples of the church of dancing navel to navel, right in the face of the evil ghost of slavery, dancing with you and your bigger than life spirit, you and I. We were one body, one heart, one inseparable soul. You and I bathing in the moonlight, one unconquered couple together forever and ever dancing. Dancing navel to navel in Argentina, y te recuerdo. Te recuerdo tú y estos días. Bailando como locos en los callejones, discípulos atrevidos de la iglesia, de bailando obligado. A pesar de la fantasma endiablada de la esclavitud, bailando contigo y tu espíritu inmortal, tú y yo, tú y yo. Fuimos uno, un cuerpo, un corazón, un alma inseparable, tú y yo. Purificándonos en la luna, una pared inconquistada, tú y yo. Tú, mi amor, tú y yo, purificándonos en la luna juntos, en espíritu para siempre, jamás, bailando y bailando y bailando y bailando en Argentina. Okay, and I really, for me, you know, it really is a mind blower because now the national dance, after all that madness, the national dance and music in Argentina is, guess what? Tango. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, I don't know how much time I've got left. I thought I put a timer on, but obviously I did the wrong thing here. So if you can tell me, how much time do I have?
Yeah, let's have a closer, shall we?
Okay, good. Okay, this is called, it's in my book of, so was the, most of the ones I read are in the book. I'm a musician, as was said earlier. It means we get home real late most of the nights. And, you know, I'm about 2 years older than Dirt. I mean, I think that Regina said she was an elder. I'm the eldest elder. I got all these instruments, you know, and which makes me a walking target. And like, there's all these street children. I don't care if it's here in Oakland or back home in New York or in Denmark or wherever, in Mexico. There's always these street children, 9, 10, 11-year-old kids who are out 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And some comedians actually make fun. I've heard people make fun, but anybody that's out in the street every night, 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, something is seriously wrong. And so I wrote them a love poem, the kids that were hanging out in my neighborhood, because they would eyeball me bringing all these instruments in the house. And I knew it was only a matter of time before they knocked me upside my head and stole my stuff. So I wrote them a love poem and blew my mind. It changed my life. And I hope this poem may give you an idea to change yours. They're very well organized, these street kids. The poem, I gave them each a copy of the poem and wound up in street newspapers all over the Bay Area. I got off the board, which is like our subway system here, about a month after I wrote the poem downtown San Francisco, and this little cute chubby Chinese girl throws her arms around me. She's like, Grandma. I said, the girl must be out of her mind. You know, no. This kid knew the poem. The poem was written in Spanglish. She knew the English and Spanish. She knew the whole poem by heart. I wrote it. I have not memorized it yet. And she said something, as I said, that changed my life. She said, thank you. Nobody ever talks to us. From the time I wrote that poem and gave the kids a copy of the poem, I couldn't get out of my car without 1 or 2 little gangsters having to help me with a loaf of bread, anything. I was the most well-protected person in that part of East Oakland. But anyway, so this is for them. It's called Street Children of the Night. Para los chiquititos de la noche en cualquier lugar, for the little teeny tiny children everywhere of the night. Black and brown children of the night que ya no saben nada jugar, mis niñitos de la calle. Queridos morenitos whose ideas having fun got swallowed by the darkness. If I could, I would wrap you in sunshine. I would hold you close and fold you in these arms and caress whatever's left of the child in you with lullabies. I would like to covet every injured inch of you with home-cooked self-esteem and better deseos vacantes. I want to fill the hole that hurt Doug. Take my hand and I fill defiantly through the fires I held for you and with you through the mugre of disrespect. I'm a hard-headed kind of lady and I just can't see myself giving up on you. Somos lo que somos, you and I, para nosotros somos todo lo que hay, been fused together by history. Por lo bonito y los sueños robados, like spiritually in the maze of our destiny. Oye, mis negrititos, mis pequeños callejeros, no necesito. The truth is, I know I need you, y yo sin ti no soy nada. And if I had a chance, I refuse to turn you loose till you were so in love with yourself that self-destruction would disintegrate under the pressure of your presence. And you were so secure in my love for you and so secure the splendor you had become that even the sun would lay aside its arrogance just to get a chance to reflect the brilliance of your essence and bask in the bold truth of your integrity and deep. Vive en la verdad real y yo sin ti no existe ni un sendero de la esperanza, oh say can they see you. My beautiful wild lotus flowers, if I could, I would bathe you in a sea of rose water. I'd convert your waves of pain into an ocean of pride and faith. Y yo te pido, dame un chance. Please, please, please let me in. I promise to do the very best I can, even if I have to wake the dead and conjure up our ancestors' breath. I'm not too proud to act a fool. Get down on my knees, holler and scream and beg all the spirits of goodness to intervene, to blow away the fog of dismay and distrust, para santificar tu lágrimas and dissipate the rage burning behind your eyes. So together we could wash away the centuries of emasculating doubt and defeminizing lies, and have a little fun and learn to play a brand new game called Demolishing Walls of Self-Hate. Children of the night, mis niñitos de la calle, I want the stubbornness of my love to help you turn on all the lights inside your soul. Tú eres mi sangre, mi queriditas. I will not let the city lights, the lights of any city to steal you. You, like a lotus blossoming, mis queriditas, alma de mi existencia. I will not let the cesspool of Fulinga make a fast food happy meal of your dream, chiquito de la esquina. You are our only wealth. You are the most beautiful part of me, and I'm not about to let you go. I will not permit the hungry stupidity of the street to feed you to the streets. I will not allow the hungry stupidity of greed to feed you to the streets without putting up a fight. Amorcito perdido de la noche, if I could, I would pave your path with stardust and massage your mind with a steady diet, just how important you are. Make sure you know you're too damn important. Let the world just throw you away. It's my job to remind you on a daily basis, this crazy old lady is here to stay. I'm still here. Staying and praying and praying and staying and staying and praying and praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. You let me in. Mis cielitos, negritito de la noche, I'm talking to you. Can you even hear me? It's all tomorrows that you're throwing away. Queridos niñitos de la calle, I'm still waiting. A stubborn old lady with a heart full of love, standing in the shadows and waiting on who you could be. Waiting for you to finally see me, waiting to wrap you in a blanket of sunshine. Thank you for listening to my words. Please come to our poetry series. Please get a copy of my book, and thank you for supporting the word. And contrary to what my friend said, I don't do music and poetry. For me, poetry is just spoken music. It's all music for me. So anyway, thank you.
Everyone, that is the undeniable Avotcja. A little chime of the heart, a little sound from the heart here in my little heart of my eye. Thank you for that euphoria of rhythm, the words, the notes, the supersonic sounds of your poetry, that poetry of remembrance and the remembrance of history. As we continue to elevate and amplify Black History Month here on Cultivating Voices, live poetry. Muchas gracias por su poesía. I'm so grateful for your voice. And really, there needs to be a week, a month devoted to you. A day is not enough. A day is not enough. Thank you. Thank you so much. The book is Every Step I Take To. You've heard it here today. You've heard the poetry of Avotcja. What a story, what a life, what a contribution to all the communities that you've touched over the years. And thank you for sharing that with us today. Well, I've so appreciated the poetry, the music, the commingling, and really our focus on the multilingual today. We have such accomplished linguists with us, and we move right to our final reader today, who is equally a very, very accomplished multilinguist, Indran Amirthanayagam. I'm going to share a really amazing fact in a moment, but before I do, I want to share with you a fun fact about Indran. Is Indran read in, I believe it was our very, very second New Books Showcase here on Cultivating Voices live poetry. And so you are such an incredible editor, accomplished, you promote reading series all over the world. And in addition to that, you continue to be an activist and amazingly prolific writer and translator in numerous languages. And I am just absolutely aghast by your energy and contribution, and so grateful for it. And folks, here we go with our very, very amazing fact about Indran that I'm going to share with you. So Indran Amirthanayagam produced a world record in 2020 by producing and publishing 3 poetry collections written in 3 different languages, a world record. He writes in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole, and you've heard him share from those many languages here on Cultivating Voices in the various programs that he's participated in. He's published 22 books of poetry, and I have no doubt that in the next year, you're likely to publish 22 more, including Isleño, Blue Window, translated by Jennifer Rathman, The Migrant States, which was the first book that Indran shared with us in that New Book Showcase, and many, many, many others. Again, a seamless experience of poetry and music. In his music, he recorded Rencontre d'Out. He edits the Beltway Poetry Quarterly, has received fellowships from the Foundation for the Contemporary Arts, the New York Foundation for the Arts, among others. And he is the IFLAC Word Poeta Mondial 2022. In 2021, he won an Emergent Seed grant, and his poem Freebird has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. He hosts the Poetry Channel on YouTube and has published poetry books with Sarah Cahill Marin at Beltway Editions. Again, a reminder of his newest books, 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant and Origami, selected poems of Manuel Bulecia. Would you please welcome our dear friend and friend to all that is poetry, Indran Amirthanayagam.
Well, I was just saying thank you so much, Sandy and Kim. Thank you. You take my breath away, really, with such a generous introduction. But I do love poetry, and I love spreading the word. And I am honored that I shared the bill tonight this afternoon with Regina and Avotcja. I'm just grateful that activists are multiplying and have been multiplying before me and before us, and we will continue to be working the street, the boardroom, the ocean, breaking down borders. I'm going to read principally from 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant, which was published by Larry Moore at Broadstone Books, and it's a book I'm very close to. I will read a poem, certainly from the translation of Origami, which is also obviously I'm very close to, and a very close friendship with Manuel Olacia, a great Mexican poet whom I translated, who passed away in an accident many years ago. Anyway, 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant, I wrote in 2020, in the height of the pandemic, in the height of the campaign against the orange-haired tyrant in the United States. Lula from Brazil was just in Washington yesterday, Friday, and he was interviewed, and he said, he was asked why he's so old, according to the interviewer. He's 77, he said, but he said, I'm 77 years old, but I have the energy of a 30-year-old. And why do I have that energy? Because I have a cause, and I'm engaged. I have a cause for not to, in my country, he said, there are 35 million people who are suffering from hunger. That cannot be in a country that produces so many agricultural goods, so much riqueza. So, we poets also have our causes, and we are forever young as a result. And so another man who has a cause is Joe Biden, and the campaign against that fellow who I will not name directly, led to some of these poems. In Love and Poetry. Call it now out loud, without shame, by its name. Call it this morning on waking in the still dark. Call it reading last night your words on the screen. Call it banishing sleep. There is no energy more sweet that sustains. Call it for the one who corrects these verses. Call it on streets of suburb and city, in the fields. Call it in front of the Capitol, on top of Mount Baldy, on Waikiki Beach, by Lake Superior. We're going far, my dear, and we're walking back home for Thanksgiving. Let us invite Kamla and Joe to the table. Let us boil sweet potatoes, serve elderberry jam, make a bean and onion stuffing. Let our friends know the meal will not involve killing a turkey or any other fowl. Let us give thanks, God, for this vitamin flowering in the early dark, guiding our fingers as we write, saying, call it now, in the day, at night, to friends and enemies alike. In love and poetry, we're going to make table and bed, and we're going to write our songs in these days of the plague, until we see light come up above the trees on fire, the befogged clouds, until the back of beyond. The right path. Let us roll, America. Let us not look back. Let us seize the fellow by the absent coat-tail. Let us reveal the traipsing emperor nude, and let us remember and defend the rights of our virus dead. But let us do so with respect, with love. Why? Because Jesus says so. Why? Because we're not jackals and hyenas. Why? Because we have to get back on the road to the promised land. This is the cover of 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant. You'll see lots of flags there. My son Anandan designed the cover, and he has designed the cover of a number of my books, and I'm very grateful for this particular image of the steps that we take to heal and in the face of that tyrant. One of my heroes growing up was Allen Ginsberg, and so I wrote this poem that I included here called The Relevance of Allen Ginsberg. I have one more story to share about Allen Ginsberg. I was at Columbia studying journalism, stressed utterly, with no time for poetry, trying to get the nut graph right and learning to control my bladder to last through the news conference with the follow-up interview. Then I learned that Allen was to feature at a club downtown. Memories of Honolulu, of our first meeting when he sang Sweet Oahu in the club, in the car playing the harmonium. He told me then to cut half the first draft out. I could not resist seeing him again, so despite the heavy reporting load, I took the subway down the west side and walked east. He asked me if I would read in the open. I could not refuse, and I read my poem about the 241 Marines bombed in Beirut. And he told me he liked the tat-a-tat rhymes and story, but did not care for the doubting end. He said, you have to take a stance, then say it. I'm saying it now. Get rid of the dissembler, hoodlum, and pussy grabber. Get rid of the thou shalt not enter and the latrine supervisor. Get rid of the one who would be king. Get rid of the golden tamarind toupee. Get him out of the people's house. Then speak to me about the hummingbirds and next year's cherry blossoms. You know, Avotcja talked about the song. I mean, it is the song, isn't it? Deep song anthem. We need the deep song. We're going far and long to Pennsylvania Avenue and beyond. Vote, donate, be strong tonight, Kamla. You will make us proud on that debate stage, I know. And Joe is cooking just fine, and the people are gathering in the name of decent government and truth in speech and deed. We're going far and long. Now Texas is in play in a serious way. North Carolina and the Rust Belt are coming back to the fold. Michael Moore, I salute you. Congressman Lewis, in your name, and so many other brothers and sisters. Let us remember Jacob Blake in rehab. Keep him in prayers. Keep the families who've lost breadwinners, sons and daughters to the bullet, the plague. We will not forget you. My mother, yes, she's suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, and but on that vote, we went to the polling station, and this was just a couple of years ago now, and she's going strong and working. The song is called Voting Song. I'm going to take Mother to the polling station. This may be her last chance to vote for the right path from the burning bush, sinking ship, roadkill, victims of the raging virus. I'm going to take Mother to the polling station. And son, make sure you get that absentee ballot sent here while you visit. Every vote will count. And daughter, although you cannot vote, not this time, I want you to know that we have tried with all of our heart and mind to throw the bastards out. You know, the heroes come and the heroes go, but they come back, you know, but we have to carry the flame. Pencil. This was written after Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. And I dedicate it to Sarah, my dear friend and partner in Beltway Editions, who is a poet and also a lawyer. And on that day, she went to the Supreme Court with her legal pencil, and she left it on the steps. Pencil. There is a time to mourn and a time to review the cards and cast them again on the table, trusting God to guide your hand, to say this pencil you left with roses, chrysanthemums, lilies, in a riot of passionate flowers before the Supreme Court, will be picked up by a girl after the period of mourning, not to be conserved in the Smithsonian Museum of American History, but to write the story of a young lawyer come to Washington to interpret laws with grace, acuity, and impartiality to the best of her ability, until such time as their articulation becomes almost unnecessary, so ingrained they would become in the social conscience of Americans, walking then freely. You know, I'll admit I like these poems. You know, I thought when I was writing them, they might have a shelf life or something. But, you know, democracy doesn't have a shelf life. Conserving it, preserving it, or trying to restore it, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or is it 1 step forward, 2 steps back? We got to keep getting back to that step forward. And there's so much to do. There's so much to do. Soul rising. I miss you, something fierce. I have to tell my bones to stop shaking, to calm down, that there is something called work, poetry, cleaning the room, getting food together, attending to mother, reading fine print and polling, picking up the phone, cold calling a Texan in the name of participatory democracy, the nations and the earth's soul and the dream, jostling about in the coffin, thinking the time is now to break down the wood, pierce the earth, slide out to walk abroad again through these United States. I will, okay, there was the Gettysburg Address, right? We all know that from our history books. Then there was another Gettysburg Address recently before the election. This poem is called Address Beyond Gettysburg. We're not going to stop. We have already started to walk, to run, our legs stretching, striding. The wind is behind us, blowing our hair and pushing us ahead. Every day, every hour, every minute fills us with enormous adrenaline, enormous hope. There are only so many insults the brain and heart can take before they begin to fight back. But with guidance from the village elder to dilute the poisoned barb with herbs and prayers, to get the Russians on the back foot, to invite Chinese to return to business, to let ordinary Iranians drink coffee in peace. But I'm not a mere internationalist. No, my friends, I'm running with Iowa farmers, former steel workers of Bethlehem, chicken pickers of Purdue plants in Tennessee. I'm not satisfied with the way things are in 50 states and all the dependencies. In Puerto Rico, I will not ignore people after they suffer hurricanes twice. In New Orleans, in the bayou, I'm not going to stop at building a levee. I will build parishes back with the faith that sustains me and them, that we will see a promised land, that we can arrive there together, one nation under God, and I have only just begun. Just begun. Give me your stories from every community, every state house. We're going to talk among ourselves. One great family conversation around the fireplace, the TV, the radio, the computer, the phone. We're going to go back towards building that great society. Do you remember the dream deferred? Langston Hughes will be on my night table. Congressman Lewis will dance in my dreams as he did in Congress. Blue Dog Democrats will have their say at the table, and we will listen to reasonable arguments from the other aisle. What is reasonable? That we spend the budget to get people back to work in good health and with hope, that we make peace with our friends again, and we trust but verify our enemies. I'm not a mere idealist. Enemies are there, friends are there, poetry is there. Let's make poetry serve the larger purpose. I'm going to read now just one poem, but from Origami. Manuel Ulacia is a great poet from Mexico who was a close friend of mine when I lived in Mexico City in late 1999 to 2001. He was my closest friend, and he picked me up at the office. I was working in the US Embassy there, and he took me to lunch in the Zona Rosa. And then from there, we just met at his home in Coyoacan, and we just carried on, and we eventually ended up writing poems and sharing poems. And I started translating his poems into English. And this is the book that began back then, over 20 years ago. Manuel, these poems were originally going to come out in 2001, but Manuel passed away. He drowned at sea, and it was obviously a terrible shock. We all went into hibernation. I don't know, the editor, the publisher was going to publish the book, sadly did that as well and did not publish the book. So the book became a sort of something that I carried around with me in my mind and in drawers, and eventually published some of the poems in India in a book called Fafnir's Heart. Thank you very much, Priya Sarukai Shabra, for that, and on her wonderful website as well. And then some of the poems appeared in Reversible Monuments, Copper Canyon's anthology of Mexican poetry. But now they're all here, at least all that I had worked on with him and a couple of others that I worked on since his passing. I'll just read one poem from the book section, Arabian Nights. Manuel was a great traveler, and this is called Supper, this poem. I'll read the Spanish too, just for you to hear his music in the original. La cena. Incendiados los azules en constante movimiento, chocan, pactan y se licuan. Todavía un sol naranja ilumina la terraza, el albero del camino, las copas de los cipreses, la ciudad en la hondonada, blanca marea de luces que crece mientras la noche hace más espeso el bosque. Alrededor de la mesa los amigos cenan, hablan, asisten a doble fiesta. La que ocurre allá en la bóveda celeste, coreografía en la que el día se fuga y la que el diálogo crea. Entre el silencio de dos palabras, un grillo canta. Emanación de una estrella que a lo lejos centella. Otra luz brilla en los ojos de los que oyen y contemplan. Eco del eco del eco. La estrella, el canto y la llama. Se escribe solo el poema. Supper. The blues on fire, moving constantly, crash, agree, and liquefy. An orange sun still lights the terrace, the clay of the road, the cypress cups, the city below in a hollow valley. A white tide of lights that grows while the night thickens the wood. Around the table, friends eat and talk, attend a double feast, one that occurs up there in the firmament, celestial choreography in which the day flees, in which the dialogue creates. In the silence between two words, a cricket sings. The emanation of a star sparkles far away. Another light shines in the eyes of those who hear and contemplate. Echo of the echo of an echo. Star, song, and flame. Only the poem writes itself. Origami, Selected Poems of Manuel Lulacia, published by Bill Lavender, Dialogos Books. Very grateful to you, Bill, and very grateful to you, Larry, for bringing these books into the world. Here is 10,000 Steps. I think if I have a minute, I might finish with one more poem from 10,000. You know, the book, thank you, I mentioned, was written, you know, during the pandemic and during this campaign. And so there are a series of poems in the book more related to the pandemic. And also there are lots of mothers in the book, including my own mother, right? And there's also the mother of all battles, the mother of all elections, and different ways of thinking about this word mother. And so I'll finish with this poem, which I'm very grateful to God for having given me this inspiration, and to the inspired. Late night olive oil. Let us put the letters and fears and boiling emotions on the page. Mummy, why did you go to the kitchen stealthily, without a word to your sleeping son, without your walker, to find the large bottle of olive oil, to pour it on the table and floor, to fill a small vessel which you meant to carry back to your room, as if nobody would notice until you called my name, because you could not negotiate the rest of the way from dining table to bedroom, vessel in hand, without cane or walker. I write to atone for my flailing words, saying never, never, never again. The kitchen is prohibited. Your mania for oil in the hair is prohibited. The stealthy, mischievous, childish, truant foray into the darkness with a torch in hand, which you forgot on the countertop, all of this is prohibited. Your losing memory and control are prohibited. These words are prohibited. Decline and death are prohibited. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wow. That's Indran Amirthanayagam. The book is 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant, as well as you're sharing the most beautiful poem from Origami, the poems of Manuel Alasia. Thank you so much. I am so moved, of course, by the power to which you infused your poetry with today, like the feeling that you brought to it. And I'm really never going to forget that passion in the poem of you bringing your mother to the polls to vote for potentially, in the poem says potentially her last time. And all of that Whitman-esque essence that comes across in these poems that ask us to listen, hear, participate, and work towards justice for each other, with each other, instead of against each other. It's these anthems are what you said at the beginning, that a cause that is also the calling of poetry. They are one and the same, and to use them together is, I think, the power of poetry. Thank you kindly and passionately and profoundly for the work. And everyone, I mean, again, I love how all three of these poets today really had such intersections in their message and their voices, the sound and the power of their voices. Folks, before I say a few closing remarks, would we please unmute to give an immense gratitude to Regina, Garcia, Avotcja, and Indran Amirthanayagam for
Thank you.
this
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful readings, everyone. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you all.
Thank you.
Wow. What a
Thank you.
I have to say real quick, my
Mm.
great gift
Rich.
is my greatest curse is I have what you call tunnel vision. So I didn't write anything in the chat, but don't believe for a second that I was not overwhelmed with both Regina and Indran. You guys are awesome, 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 and you got to be part of our poetry.
15-year-old girl
Be here.
arrested on suspicion of murder.
I can't hear you. What?
There's a 15-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Avotcja,
you.
I just want to say that you've almost inspired me to go in there and pull out a roast pork butt and make candies.
Hey, don't even start talking about good food because I might have that before I'm supposed to be.
Wonderful. Mhm.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a great way to think, because we're eating poems today. We're having a big feast. It's a great afternoon.
Yeah, eating
Thank you.
poetry. Oh, incredible, incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you
I-
again.
Thank you,
to
both of you. All, can I just say, Avotcja, thank you so much, carrying the song, and Regina, thank you, Sandy, for bringing us together, and Kim. It's just a great service you do, and I'm grateful for it. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, we are grateful to be able to share poetry on most Sundays. And, today was truly just another shining example of what happens when we, bring voices together, the conversations that poets who have not read together before perhaps are able to actually be in conversation with one another. And I always love the community that happens among the voices. And this reading today, just so many incredible intersections between the poetry from Regina's The Firetalker's Daughter, Avotcia's Every Step I Take Two, and Indran's 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant. As the reading went on, I just kept noting all the intersections. And so I want to just thank you for bringing your voices today to the program. And thank you, of course, to Kim Ports Parsons for bringing these poets to the program together today. Don Krieger for all that you do to bring the program alive here in Zoom and available for all of us as we can rewatch these really historic readings that bring poets together. Well, we will be together again next week if you are available and willing and able for our third and our final reading for February, our open mic. Please join us, same time, same Zoom channel. Join us again. We are so appreciative of every single one of you that joins us any Sunday that you can, whether this is here in Zoom live or on Facebook. And of course, as I say every single week, you know, it's a true gift to be able to enjoy, appreciate, and experience poetry from all across the time zones as we're able to here, meet all kinds of folks that we would not have met otherwise. It would take years, if ever, to meet each one of you, and that we have the true gift of being able to do that on the Sundays that we gather here at Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. So of course, as I say every week, take very good care of yourselves, take extremely good care of your beloveds. I mean, I think of the poems today, how there was such care of the elders and of family and of kinship in these poems. And in caring for others, your gift, of course, is to keep writing all of your remarkable poems and bring them to us here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry and elsewhere. Well, for Don, Kim, and myself, Sandy Yannone, for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, I wish you a very, very pleasant week, and we send our best to you until we meet again. Be well, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Look forward to it. Stay safe.
Yes, thank